Today I'm going to show you how to make squares and rectangles using your Eyelet border punch. It's fairly easy to do once you know where you need to position the paper in your punch to be able to turn corners. So I'm starting out with a piece of paper that is measured 6 7/16 inches square. The secret to turning corners is where you line up the paper on the corner. So right now you'd normally think that you need to start at the edge of a scallop. But to turn a corner you need to be able to start at just a little bit to the side of the center hole in the Eyelet punch. So that would be, you might be able to see my little pencil mark on my punch. So just as close to the edge as you can get it. And you start there. I'm just going to punch down both sides of this paper. When you get to the end, it'll actually make a nicer cut if you position the cutter over top of one or two of these scallops to make a smooth corner. So right now we can probably do it with just one. And you just line up the holes from the previous punch. And that gives you a way nicer corner to work with. So now we're going to continue down the side. You'll notice that this is cut just very close to the edge of that center hole again. So to turn a corner, it will be lining up on this hole. This distance from here to this hole is exactly the distance that this comes in from the edge to the edge of this hole again. So we'll put this in. You'll see that that hole is lined up perfectly. To start off with, until you get kind of used to making corners, you can maybe mark that hole and just double check before you punch it that it will be in the right position. So you'll have a good corner. So I'm lined up in that hole. And there's our corner. I'm just going to continue around the square. Okay, there again we've just got a narrow piece of paper there that won't cut really well unless we move that back a little bit and line it up with the previous two punches. And we should end up with a smooth cut, which we do. And that is pretty much right where we want it. So to turn these corners, we'll be lining up with this hole here and this hole here. I just got a little bit of a rough edge there, I'll trim. I'm just going to draw with my pencil the edge of that so you see where we're going. Actually, I'll show you with this. So the hole will be lined up there to turn the corner. So basically, it ends up being this hole here that we're lining up on, and then it will continue to cut the scallops around the corner. Same thing again, we end up with a tiny piece there. So we just line up with the two previous scallops. All the holes are lined up perfect. And punch. So again, to turn our corners, we're going to be lining up on this hole here. And this hole here. There we have it. right in the center. If it's not quite in the center, you'll end up with a little bit bigger hole there, which I'll show you on one of my other ones. So now we're at the end, and this needs to line up with this edge now, and then with this hole at the same time. So if you have to make a choice between this hole lining up and this edge, always take the hole lining up, because you can always trim that center paper off if you need to. It's easier to trim this than it is to fix this hole. So always line up on that one, although I think we're fine here. Yeah, we're fine. Well, maybe not. And then you can see. So we have a little bit of adjustment that we can make here. Rather than throwing this away, you just snip that little bit of paper off, and it's still salvageable. And you'll see that I went a little bit I moved the paper when I punched, and so that little hole is a little bit bigger than it should be, but pretty much usable. I'm going to just give you some measurements in some of the sizes that I cut these at to take some of your guesswork out. So for 2 scallops wide, I cut this 2 inches square. For 3 scallops, it was cut at 2 5/8 inches square. For 4 scallops, it was cut at 3 1/4 inches square. 5 scallops was cut at 3 7/8. 6 scallops was cut at 4 7/16. 7 scallops was 5 3/16. The large one, I don't have the measurement for this one. The large one that we did today was cut at 6 7/16. To make a template that you can keep reusing as a guide for your sizes of scallops, number of scallops that you want to make a square or a rectangle, simply take a piece of cardstock, punch down one side, turn the corner as we've shown in the video, and punch down the other side. You can then keep reusing this. So you take a piece of cardstock that you're thinking the size you want for whatever you're making, and you lay it here. So to figure out a size for a matting for this particular size of rectangle, I would have to be cutting this off here and here in order to fit that size of cardstock. So once that's cut, you can see that it's just perfect for turning your corners on this eyelet here. So, and that works pretty good. There you go. So you can make one of these that's handy to use for gauging your sizes, or you can use the measurements that I gave you earlier in the video. Thanks for joining me today. Have a good day.